Hello everyone, this is Faith, and this is my booktube channel, Faith and Books, and it's Sunday afternoon. My husband and I spent the weekend at a place called the Inn at Little Washington, which is a very highly rated restaurant and inn we've been hearing about for decades, and we finally managed it. We tried before to get booked there for our anniversary, but we never could. And this time we did make a reservation. So we went there on Friday, and we had this incredible meal. I mean, on Friday night and last night as well. I can't even describe it. It's such a great eating experience. It's a kind of a once in a lifetime thing. It's very expensive, but it was really, really fun. We met the chef. His name is Patrick O'Connell, and he's I think he's world famous. And it's a really quaint inn that actually, it seems like an old inn, but it wasn't. We stayed in the park called the Parsonage, which was an old parsonage. It's literally right next to an Episcopalian church, and we stayed there. And then you walk across the street to the original inn, which was actually a garage that they first made into a restaurant and then into an inn. It's in this teeny tiny little town. It's really just a crossroads. Anyway, it was really charming, absolutely spectacular food, just like nothing I've ever eaten before. He just knocks everything up a notch. So it was a really fun experience. I'm glad we did it. I think it's a once in a lifetime thing. It's just so expensive and so rich. You really feel like you're, royalty or something. So anyway, but what was really neat for me is that walking distance, I can't remember how, it was a complete, walking to this book barn and back, I think was about 1.5 miles. But we actually walked from the inn to this barn that had used books in it, and it's part of the Rappahannock County Public Library. They have a used book sale every Saturday from 9 to 6. So I had heard about it, so we decided we were going to do that. So we got our exercise. It was quite chilly. We walked there, and we went in, and I got a book haul. So this is my first ever book haul on my channel. I actually, the last few years, I've been trying not to buy books because I have so much already that I need to sort through and get rid of. And also, I'm just trying to simplify, live more simply, and I just get books on my Kindle, or I use the library. And so I don't really buy books as much as I used to. Anyway, but this time I did, and it was great that we had the limiting factor that we had to walk back, because I think I had like 30 books, and I winnowed it down a bit. So I'm just going to go through, pull them out, and show you what I got. This was the biggest book. This was a real monster to carry back. My husband did it for me. But this is a book called History of Africa. And it was published by American Heritage magazine, which was a magazine. It was a hardcover magazine that my father had a huge collection of. And I spent many hours, many rainy Sunday afternoons, paging through that magazine. And this is the same style. They're pretty scholarly articles with a lot of beautiful photography and paintings and illustrations. So there's one. I'm really interested in Africa because in my area anyway, there's a lot of people who are immigrating now to Africa. In fact, the little boy that I watch, little 4-year-old, his mother's from Cote d'Ivoire, and my son's has a physical trainer. He's from Ghana. There's just a lot of African immigrants in this area. So that sort of piqued my interest. And this one was published, though, I think in 1971 or something. It was very, very anti-colonial sort of mood in the book, which is interesting. Anyway, this was like my big coffee table book. that I got. But I really like that one. Then let's see some of the other ones that I got. Let me reach in here and see. Wait, that's my Kindle. These were two. My husband got two. He got Thomas Jefferson Notes on the State of Virginia. And then I picked this one out for him, and he got it anyway. A Sackful of Limericks by Michael Palin. Yeah, he was a big Monty Python fan, so those are very clever. And he's a history buff. He has a lot of stuff by Jefferson. And then let's see, I got this book by Wendell Berry. It's a collection of essays, The Gift of Good Land. And I had been thinking for a while about getting a collector or reading his essays, because I have tried a couple of times to read Hannah Coulter, I think it's his best known novel, and I've heard other YouTubers mention it. And I just couldn't get through it. I just didn't like I don't like his writing style. I tried twice, once on my own and another time with a reading group, and I just couldn't get through it. It seemed very flat, and he does a lot of telling instead of showing, and I don't feel like the characters were well developed. I just didn't relate to them. So anyway, I really wondered about myself, because I love everything that Wendell Berry stands for. Like, my favorite magazine is Front Porch Republic, which is very much, they really admire Wendell Berry. And I've read some essays a long time ago by him that I really liked. So I know I jive with him in his worldview and his opinions on what direction we ought to go. But I just didn't get into his fiction. So I had been wanting to read more essays by him, so I'm glad I found this. I already started reading one. And I find him better as an essayist than as a novelist. So anyway, so that was one. Let's see, what else? Let me go to the next bag. All right, let's see. Oh, this. This is the book, The 13 Clocks by James Thurber. I read this as a child. I remember we had this book. I've been reading it to my husband. We're in the middle. I've been reading it out loud to him. But I love James Thurber. We have Many Moons by him as well. And then, of course, he wrote adult stuff. But I love his tongue-in-cheek fairy tales. There's some illustrations. There we go. Anyway, so this is a fun read. James Thurber is really funny, very clever. And I was really excited when I saw that one, because I didn't remember anything. I didn't remember the story at all, but I know that we had it, and I read it as a child. Then I got this book by Simon Wiesenthal, The Sunflower. This just seemed really interesting. It says, while imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp, Simon Wiesenthal was taken one day from his work detail to the bedside of a dying member of the SS. Haunted by the crimes in which he had participated, the soldier wanted to confess to and obtain absolution from a Jew. Faced with the choice between compassion and justice, silence and truth, Wiesenthal said nothing. But even years after the war had ended, he wondered, had he done the right thing? What would you have done in his place? In this important book, 53 distinguished men and women respond to Wiesenthal's questions. They are theologians, political leaders, writers, jurists, psychiatrists, human rights activists, Holocaust survivors, and victims of attempted genocide in Bosnia, Cambodia, China, and Tibet. Anyway, so it's just a collection of their responses to this question. So I thought that would be really thought-provoking. Let's see. Oops, gotta be careful. Then I got a bunch of books that I thought I could use because for morning meditation. I like to get up and just read something inspirational in the morning while I'm first sipping my coffee. And I had been trying to read The Life of Christ by Fulton Sheen. I think he's blessed now. But it's in a narrative style, and it's too broken up to just read a few minutes a day. I want to just sit and get absorbed in that. So I like things that are sort of written to be something to meditate on. So this is a collection that he put together himself, God love you, Fulton J. Sheen, of his various writings, Bishop Sheen's own selection of the most helpful, inspiring passages from its many books. So I thought that would be an excellent thing for morning meditation. And then I also got these two kind of Bible study books by Raymond Brown, who was actually a Catholic priest, but I think, he's sort of respected across the denominations. This one is An Adult Christ at Christmas, and it's essays on the three biblical Christmas stories, Matthew 2 and Luke 2. So that's that. And then I got his Crucified Christ in Holy Week, essays on the four gospel passion narratives. So I thought one would be good for Lent and the other one would be good for Advent. And then I got this book by Jean Vanier, and he just passed away recently, and I think he's going to be a saint. He started the Larch communities, where people go and live in these intentional communities with people with mental disabilities. And he was a very holy man, and he wrote this book. I've never read anything by him, but I've heard about him. And it's almost written, he was kind of mystical. These are like in long poems and sort of a stream of consciousness talking about compassion and trying to live a Christ-like life. And so it says, in Befriending the Stranger, Jean Vanier reflects on who we are and how we build our communities, and in particular asks, can we be truly compassionate towards others if we are not compassionate towards ourselves? In a series of 6 meditative pieces, he opens up God's invitation to us today, in the midst of all the violence and corruption of the world, to create new places of belonging and sharing, of peace and kindness, where each one is loved and accepted with one's own fragility, abilities, and disabilities. So I don't know if that's going to work for meditation, or if I'm just going to sort of read it cover to cover, or am I just going to pick it up and dip into it? We'll see. Don't know quite how I'm going to do that one. But I want to learn more about him. Let's see. And then this is a memoir by William Sloane Coffin Jr., who was kind of a radical civil rights man who was, he was a pastor. I'm not sure what Christian denomination. But I've heard his name over and over. I used to, a long time ago, I used to get like the Sojourner magazine, and I think he was pretty much often quoted in there. So I just thought that would be an interesting memoir to read. It says, among the representative men of our era, William Sloane Coffin Jr. stands out as that unique individual whose life and career epitomize the dramatic issues and conflicts, social, political, spiritual, and academic, of his time. CIA operative and civil rights activist, clergyman and iconoclast, Army officer and champion of draft resistors, aspiring concert pianist and formidable athlete, Coffin truly has been a child of the century. Here is a man of unquenchable vitality and prodigious capabilities, relishing the challenges to advocates of liberty, equality, and fraternity posed by a complex and contradictory universe. Here is a man to whom civil disobedience has been more than a lofty abstraction. Jailed in Alabama with Ralph Abernathy, on trial in Boston with Dr. Spock, at odds with the trustees and officers of Yale, he has never hesitated to risk the worst in order to achieve the best. And here is a profoundly reflective and deeply humorous man whose tough-minded spirituality has been tempered in the furnaces of public action. So I think it sounds like a really interesting memoir. Then, let's see, what else did I get? What is that? Oh, I got this Tom Brokaw, an album of memories. He's the one that did the histories of the greatest generation. I think he's the one that came up with that term, all the people who'd fought in World War II. My father was a Navy pilot in World War II in the Pacific. He participated in the Iwo Jima and Okinawa campaigns. He was even shot down but rescued. Anyway, so when I look at pictures of my dad and my mom, this just reminded me so much of them. It's just a compilation of letters to him, and with all sorts of photos and documents and that sort of thing. So, it just made me nostalgic for my dad. And I think it would be interesting to read the experiences of other people who went through that same thing. So that's another buy. Then, another YouTuber, I think it was Totally Pretentious, was talking about Roger Scruton. And I have read some things by him, and I've seen interviews with him. And I just saw a collection of essays that he wrote. And I find him, I don't always agree with him, but I find him interesting. And I like the way he approaches a lot of things. And so I just decided I'd get this. It was $1. And then, let's see. I've got 2 on gardening. This is Vita Sackville-West's a compilation of her gardening articles in the Observer, I think is the newspaper she wrote for. And I like gardening books. So this has beautiful illustrations. And she was a really clever, great writer, and she loved gardening. So I think that will be a nice read for me in the winter when my garden is not active. And then I also got this one, Gardener's Latin, because the 2 things I'm trying to do is be a good gardener and learn Latin. And I saw this little book. It's just a little dictionary of all the Latin roots for the names of plants. So I thought it was cute. And then the last one was really exciting because I'm doing a year with Louisa May, and I found this book, A Long Fatal Love Chase by Louisa May Alcott. I'm really thick in the Eden's Outcast. Have been reading that all week. So I'm really into Louisa May Alcott right now, and the fact that I found this at the used bookstore made me really happy. So that is my haul. I'm pretty excited about it. I had to put so many back. I wound up putting back all the fiction, except for the Louisa May Alcott, because I really can just get that on Kindle or go to the library most of the time. But these all seemed worth keeping. So anyway, so that was my haul, and I'm going to get back to regular life because I've been away for 2 nights. So, I have to get back to NaNoWriMo. Maybe I'll be able to write some tonight. But I did get up to, before I left, I was up to over 13,000 words. So not too bad. So it's coming pretty easily to me. It's about it's about 2 things that I know about or I'm really intrigued by. Big Catholic families and homesteading, because I'm really fascinated by homesteading, and I've been reading and watching YouTube channels and that sort of stuff. So I've combined it together. It's this family that decides to move out and live off the land. So it's coming pretty easily because it's an interesting topic that I already know a lot about. But I have to get more form to it. Right now I'm just sort of dumping facts about how they set up their homestead and all that sort of stuff. But I'm going to have to start working on the kids' characters and conversations. And then I had to come up with some point of conflict. My point of conflict was going to be having a sort of urbane newspaper reporter come out to interview the family for a human interest story and just sort of have the sort of clash of worldviews. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. And, NaNoWriMo is just always a very rough first draft. So anyway, but I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun, and it's coming pretty easily. And I had a lovely weekend. I hope you had a lovely weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.